Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Still in Love podcast. This is episode number 15. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about walking in agreement.
Okay, let's do that.
It is so important to walk in agreement. And in marriage, it's important to walk in agreement in business. It's important to walk in agreement in church. It's important to walk in agreement in leadership.
Yep.
Agreement is everything. Being in agreement. The Bible says, how can the two walk together except they agree?
One of my favorite scriptures.
We can't walk together if we're not in agreement.
Absolutely.
If I'm going right and you're going left, we're not walking together.
Yep.
And so we have to get to a place to where how can we communicate and dialogue so that we're going in the same direction so that we can be walking together. And sometimes it's really, really difficult to walk together with a spouse that doesn't want to walk with you. Or that has a different ideology and a different mindset and there's no agreement. So I just want to talk about the importance of it, the power in it, and how important it is to walk in agreement.
Amen. Let's go.
In the Bible, there were some individuals who began to build a tower, and they called it the Tower of Babel.
Yep.
And they was building the tower so much so to where God had to come down to earth and say, I must confuse their language. Because if I don't confuse their language, in essence, it'll be nothing impossible for them to do. So he came down and confused their language because they were building the tower, trying to build a tower to heaven.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if they were going to be able to build a tower to heaven.
Correct.
But it sure does indicate that there may have been a possibility or something for them to build this tower to heaven to where it got the attention of the Lord. And it was evil to the Lord to where he came down and he said, let me confuse their languages so that they can not be on one accord, so that they cannot be in agreement. Because if they're in agreement, it's impossible
Yep. They're unstoppable
for them to not reach their goal.
Yep.
And I think about that to where, whoa. If they were really in agreement on one accord, it would have been impossible for them to do whatever it is that they were attempting to do.
Yep.
Now, if we're looking at that from an evil standpoint, that they were doing it for selfish gain, they were doing it, and God said, no, I got to do something about this.
Right.
So what he did was, I'm gonna interrupt your language, so you cannot talk the same language. You can't speak the same language. So he doesn't know what he's talking about, and she doesn't know what he's talking about, and he doesn't know what she's talking about. So they'll be off kiltered, and they won't be able to be in agreement with one another.
Right.
Because he understood and understands the power
Of agreement. It's powerful.
The day of Pentecost. The Bible says they were all in one place on one accord.
Yes, sir.
In agreement. We're praying about the same thing. We're touching and agreeing about the same thing. See, it can't be somebody praying that, we're just pray that we get the new house, and then somebody else is praying, well, pray that, that if we don't get the new house, then we just get an apartment or something. No. Look, if we trust in God for the new house, we need to be in agreement with one another.
That's right.
If you want the apartment and he want the house and she want the apartment, no, we're not in agreement.
Right.
Let's be in agreement. It's something about being in agreement. And so they was on one accord in one place, and God sent the Holy Ghost. The power of agreement. Where there's two or three gathered together as of touching and agreeing on anything, then it'll be given when we are in agreement.
Right.
So it's powerful to be in agreement with each other.
Amen.
Let's talk about in marriage, like how does that look in marriage? Because, the importance of agreement in marriage.
It can show up, I think, in a lot of ways. One area that first comes to mind is being in agreement about our finances, how we are going to govern or steward what the Lord is bringing through our hands, be it by way of you, me, or the both of us. How are we going to steward the resources that the Lord has allowed us to have access to, and we got to be in agreement with how we're going to handle it. Because if you feel like, oh, I'm going to take these resources and I'm going to go purchase me a new vehicle. Well, I'm saying, no, I want to purchase new furniture. Then we are not in agreement about what we're going to do with these resources. Or if you are saying, I want our child to go to public school so we can be tuition free, and I'm saying I want our children to be in private school, and I'm okay with spending the money, the resources for tuition. Agreement is we got to agree, because there will be conflict. And unfortunately, some couples who are not in agreement about money, a lot of times the conflict comes because we are not in agreement with each other. I don't agree with what you want to do, and therefore, and sometimes the other individual doesn't agree with what you want to do.
So how do you become in agreement?
You got to talk about what we're going to do. We got to talk about what it is that we need to get in agreement about. We just had a conversation, or we started a conversation earlier about our daughters getting ready to go off to school. And just financially, we were talking about conversations around her college debt for her. And so we're working through something, but we're talking about it so that we can get in agreement about it, and then we can move forward. And so when we're having conversations with other people, when we're having conversations with her about expectations, all of that. But we've got to first get in agreement. You listen to me. I heard your thoughts on it. And then I came back and said, hey, this is my thought on it. And even though we have yet to come to an agreement about it, we did what you have to do, and then start a conversation about what it is that you need to get in agreement about.
That is so important, because sometimes one person can feel stronger than the other individual about something.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so it's difficult it's difficult to come in agreement when you feel strongly about something. I don't feel that strong about it. Or both of us feel strong about something. How do we come into agreement in that regard?
And we overlook, I think, how much and how important that is. Even about we had a conversation earlier about hot chips.
Yep, I was getting ready to talk about that.
And I do not purchase hot chips for my son. I do not. I don't like that he eats them. I don't like that anybody ever gives it to him. And for a long period of time, I was really adamant about, no, he doesn't eat them. I don't buy them, and I don't allow other people to get it for him. Takis, all of that stuff, anything with that red dye in it, I just prefer that he doesn't partake in it. It's just not healthy for him. And some things it's just not good for him. And so, of course, him being a 10-year-old, in some environments, he is given those things. And I kind of got a little lax on it, and was just kind of like, okay, I'm not buying it, but sometimes I understand he's in an environment, other people are eating them, I'll just chill. But a few weeks ago, I was like, why did I get off of that? I'm going to go back to that, because unhealthy is unhealthy, and I prefer that not be in his system. But I never shared that with you. So if he is somewhere with you and he grabs a bag of hot chips, because he knows that, well, my daddy don't never say nothing about me eating the hot chips. My mama watching me like a hawk. Put that down. Go get another kind. Go get some plain Lay's or something. Because he's aware of that. But when we come into agreement about it, you will be on top of it when he's with you after a game, or y'all hanging out, chilling, or doing whatever. He reaches for, hey man, you're not supposed to have those, because we've come into agreement about it. But yeah, that's a wonderful
really
example of how that plays out in marriage. And there will be things like you could seriously say, Tori, that's not a big deal. That's Tori, it's hot chips. It's a lot of other stuff. Like, well, let's stop him from doing this or eating this. But also in our communicating, you yielded to my desire in that. You didn't put up a fight on it. You was like, all right, is that what we own? Then I bet then that's what we own. And sometimes in marriage, the person who has, I'm not going to say the better argument, but the person who has
more conviction
more
about
conviction
it.
about
Yes,
it, you kind of have to yield over to that. You were adamant about things with Madison, and it's like, okay, some things I may have been okay about. You were like, nope, this is what we're going to do. This is not what we're going to do. Things like getting her a phone, things like, we came into agreement about her and social media. Like, nope, let's come to an understanding.
Wow,
what
this
do
is
we
good.
feel about social media? So I wasn't so fixated on what I wanted over what would have probably been best. And when you walk in agreement with anybody, and honestly, that could apply in any relationship, marriage, friendship, workship, ministryship, any ship. Sometimes what you desire, if it's for the better of the relationship and if it's for the better of another individual, you have to yield to that. It's not necessarily I wanted her to do XYZ, and my want overrides what would have been best for her. Sometimes you're looking, especially when children are at play, you are looking at it from the perspective of a dad. And it's one thing I heard, I don't know if it was a couple or somebody was talking about their daughter's attire and how she is okay with the child wearing maybe shorter shorts or just a little more revealing clothes. And the dad was like, yeah, no, I'm not with that. And so sometimes I have to yield over to that because I'm not a man. So I respect your opinion.
Woman, you talking today.
I honor your position in her life. As a dad, you're looking at things different because you're a man. I'm looking at it like, oh, something may be innocent. It's okay. You like, yeah, no, it's not okay because I'm looking at what I'm looking at, and I'm a man, but I see how other men could be looking at her, and I don't want another man to be looking at my child like that. So, no, she ain't swimming without putting that cover up on. No, she not getting a two-piece. No, she not. Whereas I would have been like, well, it's okay. She just around family. She just around you. Like, nah, no, sir. It don't happen like that. So that in my mind is two examples. And there are plenty. There are plenty. There are so many children, when to have children, when to have extra children. Where we're gonna live, the power of agreement with that.
Yeah, you're talking today.
It is. We have had this play out in our lives so many times, but you can't be afraid to have conversations about it. And sometimes we don't want to talk about things because we don't want our desires to be put on the back burner.
Yep.
We don't. I don't want to give up what I want. Well, now it's now is not the time. If I say, let's sell our house, and you're like, well, now is really not the time. We got a kid going to school. We got other stuff at play. Like, yeah, now is not a good time. But I'm like, but that's what I want. So sometimes I won't bring it to you because you're going to mess up what I want. And I can sometimes make it happen without me bringing it to you. So, it's the power of agreement.
So you mentioned the hot Cheetos and Takis. Hot Cheetos. And so we talked about that today. And we were talking about something else, and you mentioned the hot Cheetos and Takis. And I said, because I didn't know that you were on that. Because for me, it's like, I'm not a fan of it, but I didn't reinforce it.
Right.
And we had that conversation about the importance of if you're on something, me needing to know so that I can reinforce whatever it is that you're on. Because if you're going at it alone, there's no reinforcement. And it can be frustrating to you because you have an opinion of what you feel that needs to take place, and I'm not in agreement with that. Not that I disagree with it, I just don't know that that's a conviction that you have, or vice versa. And so I stopped in the middle of the conversation and said, "Whoa, is that what we on? Is that what we're doing? Because if that's what you're on, then I'm going to enforce that in my environment and with people around him, people that he's around as well. And so that's so important so that we can be on the same page. And we're going to tell him to where, listen, it doesn't matter. You don't eat hot Cheetos and Takis.
Right.
So it doesn't matter who you're around. If we catch you eating hot Cheetos and Takis, then we're gonna correct that. And so I think that's so important. You and I, we always have conversations. Just about making decisions. If I'm getting ready to make a huge decision, you're going to make a huge decision, and in particular myself, when I'm getting ready to make a decision, I need you to be in agreement with me.
Correct.
because I can make a decision without you, but I need to make sure that, hey, listen, are we in agreement with us moving forward in this area? I don't want to make the decision and you're somewhere thinking like, oh my goodness, we shouldn't have made this decision. We make a big purchase or whatever the decision is, and even though you didn't say anything, you're not in agreement. I need to know before we move forward, before we sign this, before we go, are you in agreement with it? And if we're not in agreement, oftentimes we don't do it until both are in agreement. Even if you're not feeling strong about it, it has to be, hey, I may not feel as strong as you feel about it, but I'm in agreement with the decision that you're making pertaining this. That is so important. And there's been numerous things to where we didn't move until we were both in agreement.
Yes.
When we decided to homeschool our child and not allow her to go to back to school during the pandemic, we were in agreement. When we decided to not allow our child to go back to private school and to go to public school, you were strongly convicted pertaining that, and I wasn't so much so. But I listened to your convictions. We talked through it, and we were in agreement.
Right.
I would not have allowed us to move forward if I was not in agreement with it. Right. Because if I'm not in agreement, or if you're not in agreement, and that decision is made, and it doesn't go well, then
I'm gonna be sad-eyed.
I'm gonna be looking at you like, okay, I knew we shouldn't have done that. But I didn't say anything. So once I become in agreement with it, it doesn't matter if she flunk, if she passed, if she drop out. Hey, listen, I was in agreement with that. So that's why it's important to get on one page, on one accord, so that you just taking whatever I say, and you're not in agreement, and you just and then something doesn't work well, and you like, I knew we shouldn't have done it. No, what you mean? You knew we shouldn't have done it. Once we agreed, we're saying hell or high water, we're in agreement with it. So if it prospers, if it fails, if it stays the same, we were in agreement with it.
That is why I think some couples struggle there because they don't. It's twofold. It's a little bit of, I don't want to yield that level. I don't want to give that over to anybody. I'm not really in agreement with anybody on anything. So that's another issue. Go ahead. Because I still want control. I still want a little bit of control. So that's more of a, hey, let's go back and check your loyalty box. Let's go back and check your check that control box. Check your control meter, because there's a definite problem there. But you do see that more than. You see that so much, I think, in so many relationships, because you don't roll with anybody like that. You don't have that measure of, I'm not going to say loyalty, but you don't have that measure of walking in agreement with anybody.
Because if something goes wrong, you want to always be the one to say,
That's right. And you have to give, you have to let that go. You have to you're almost giving away the right to be able to say that. And it's being able to ride with somebody like that. And in marriage, you are married to who hopefully is your rider.
Come on, girl.
You riding with me. Good, bad, indifferent. When I mess up, you riding with me. When I do well, you're riding with me. And when we can do that, because we have come in agreement about things. But if we don't come into agreement, which sometimes is why people are out here struggling, we're coming into agreement because I don't really want to ride with you when you're wrong. I don't really want that. And it's you are doing your relationship a disservice because you aren't willing to let it go and say, I'm riding. Good or bad, I'm riding. And I'm giving up my right to be in control, and I'm giving up my right to always have to be in the right. I give that up. So I remember when we were doing a corporate fast at the top of the year, and this, I want to say this was a few years back, because I felt some internal pressure. You told MJ that, which is our son, so he was relatively young. I'm going to say maybe 6 or 7, and our children participated in the corporate fast. And you said that he was not going to do any sodas, anything but water. I immediately felt some type of way. Like, just water. Like, don't do him like that. Like, no, let's not take. I want him to understand fasting, and I want him to not. He's probably never gonna love it because your flesh just doesn't love it. But I want him to gain a little more understanding before we just take everything from him. And so I was like, "Are you sure? Like, can he do this or that?" And he was like, "No, he ain't doing nothing. We're gonna do water." And you were talking about doing a certain time frame, and I was like, "Well, dang, what about at school?" So I'm thinking of all of these reasons why he shouldn't do it or he's not able to do it, and and I felt some type of way. So MJ, a few seconds, or maybe not a few seconds, but I think later on that day, he came and asked if he could have a Gatorade, and I was like, I really, really, really wanted to give him the Gatorade because I felt like within myself it was okay for him to have. And that's when the power of agreement, because it's not going to be as easy as we are saying it. I feel like we have practiced it so much throughout our 20 years that it's easier for us to do because it has come with a lot of practice. So some things kind of go like, yeah, if this is your thing, yeah, I'm not messing with it. You let me have my thing. But the conflict comes when both of us feel like we got a thing in the thing. Like we have an opinion about the thing that we need to be in agreement on. I'm saying no. You're saying yes. And it's like, all right, now how do we work through because now we got some tension in what it is that we need to be in agreement about. And I had to go ahead and say, think about what it is that you're giving, you're allowing tension to form about fasting, the boy and fasting. So you hate what it does to your flesh. So you in turn put that same on him. Yeah, it's going to do that to his flesh, but he's learning now. These are spiritual disciplines. If what you're saying, if you feel like fasting is important to your life, why would you not want that to be introduced to him? Like sometimes you got to question and jack your own flesh up and say, look at what it is that you're trying to argue and beef about. Look at what it is that you're allowing to a seed to sit up about. Fasting?
Yeah.
Fasting. The man didn't say the boy couldn't eat. He's saying, you're saying you don't want to deny him of a pleasure. It's 21 days. He has 365 days of pleasure, minus 21 of things that he wants to eat and drink and so on. Not everything, but you get what I'm saying. Like, yeah, he can give up 21 days. Yeah. And it's teaching him something that is vitally important for his walk in life. Yes. So, yeah, it's when the conflict comes and you want one thing and I want another. Yes. And you work through it by somebody's got to yield. Yes. Somebody's got to yield. And there are times when you both have to do that. But it's killing the flesh. It's killing your wants. It's killing your desires. And in marriage, you're going to do that more times than not.
And I'm going to tell you another time, that was really good. Another time, the same situation, when I told him that he couldn't get any Gatorade. I think this is using Gatorade. And you didn't know it or you weren't clear on it.
Right.
And he came to you and you gave him the Gatorade.
I did.
So out of my frustration, I'm frustrated about it.
Yep.
And I'm like, why would she give him the Gatorade?
Yep.
And I'm assuming that she know that I said, we're not doing any Gatorade.
Yep.
So I spoke about it, I think maybe in front of both of y'all. Like, Tori, did you, for one, MJ, you knew you weren't supposed to get in Gatorade.
Right.
And then you said, I didn't know he wasn't supposed to get in Gatorade. So I corrected him.
Right.
And then you and I had a conversation, just about the importance of, making sure we don't get him the Gatorade.
Yep.
It was me having to make sure that's communicated in a loving manner to you to, this is the expectation. And so that you can understand it rather than me not saying anything and assuming that you're doing your own thing.
Yep. Yep.
Or I told you not to give me. We already talked about that.
Yeah.
I know. It's just, hey, let's communicate and let me make sure that I'm clear on the expectations for him. And then you heard that and say, hey, my bad. I didn't know that's what we were on. Say less. And
Oh, this is so good.
This is
because the
good.
power of agreement is even important for the onlookers, for the people who are looking. It is important that MJ sees
Yes.
that we are in agreement about things. For one, so he can't, be slick willy and try to, I'm gonna get. Well, my daddy said this, but my mama, I already know certain things can fly with her because that's how we
That's
roll.
it.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
It's whatever your mama say about
very
this.
important.
When he come and
Yes.
ask me something, what
What
did your mama say?
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? When he come and
Yes.
ask you, so what did your dad say?
Yes, I do that with your daughter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I know you do a great job with it
Yes.
too,
What
and
did
I
your daddy say?
appreciate
Did
that.
you ask your daddy? Have you talked to your dad? Okay, then
We
talk
have
to him
be
first
in
and
agreement.
then come back.
I don't
Yep.
want her. Well, she, I let her go to, her friends get together. Is we need to be in agreement.
Yep.
You let her go to the friends get together.
Yep.
I don't know anything about the friends
Yep.
get together. Give me the ability
Yep.
to use discernment
Yep.
pertaining her.
Yep.
Give me the opportunity
Yep.
to sense the situation and say, babe, I'm not feeling good in my spirit pertaining this right here.
Yep.
Opposed to you making a decision, something happening, and I'm looking at you side-eyeing. Like, why would you even let her do something like that? Why would you let her go to this game? Because maybe there's a discernment that I have and a knowledge that I have of, I heard that these folks finna be shooting at a game, but I have no clue that she's going to the game. So I don't say anything to you about, don't let her go to a game because we're always in agreement about, hey, Madison wants to go to a game.
Yep.
Is it okay?
So
See,
good.
that's the importance of communication and being in agreement with one another.
Yep.
And so many times, people do it. It's just, and we're not perfect. We don't. It's not 100%.
No.
And it's just, and
'Cause that old flush be rising up.
and sometimes I don't even know if it's the flesh. It's just you made a
I
decision.
want
You
it,
just,
I
hey, look,
want,
go ahead and do
I
it.
wanted to operate independent.
Yeah,
I wanted
and-
to be independent. Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just talk about it. If you feeling that it's okay to do something, you thought that I was going to say no about that, let me know the importance, how important it is for you to allow her some freedom in this area.
Yep.
And I'll understand that. And I'll retreat and say, okay, and be more lenient. But just prom time, let's communicate. What's a good time for her to come back?
Yes.
Rather than I feel like she need to be back at 11:30, and you like, she need to be at 2. And so I tell her 11:30, and then she get with you, and you be like, well, see, and it's too many times that couples do this, and I want y'all to hear me.
Yep.
It's too many times that
Go
couples
ahead
do
and
this,
say it.
that they agree with their spouse, but they're not in agreement with their spouse.
Now pause. Let's let that sink in because this got to marinate. We agree, but I'm not in agreement.
Yes. So
Now,
you shake your
clarify.
head, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. This is what we're doing, yes. But when we leave there, your
as
actions.
soon as I get out your presence, yes, baby, we're gonna save $500. We're gonna save it. We're gonna save it. We're gonna save it. And as soon as you turn your back, I'm on Amazon Prime for Prime Day, and I spent $200. Well, what happened to our agreement? Well, I agreed with you in the moment, but I was not in agreement with you because agreement follows with action.
That's it.
Agreement follows with action.
And I think that's so important that you understand that as a couple, that it's important to be in agreement, not just to agree.
Yes.
And your spouse know that to where,
Yes.
you know what, how did this get on the bill? What just happened? Like, why, how did $700 purchase get on this bill? And we just communicated that we're not spending anything else this month.
Watch out. It's getting personal.
So you agreed, but you obviously were not in agreement. And that's how conflict happens in marriage.
That is.
Because you nodded your head, yes. But in your heart, you said,
No.
I'm going to do what I want to do. Your head did this, but your heart did this right here. So your head and your heart got to be on one accord.
Come on now.
When your head say this, you got to work and get in agreement to where your heart can do this right
and
here.
your hands.
That's right.
And your lips and your eyes are
Can be in
also
agreement.
Understand it.
Your hands, your swipe, all your hands, your feet, your heart, and your mouth got to be in agreement
and that card.
with your words.
Amen. Amen.
Also, I've seen couples in conversation, and one spouse could say something, and another spouse can show that they're not in agreement with their spouse in their actions,
Body
in
language.
what they, just how they move, the body language, and just, the man says, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and the woman looking like, huh? Really? Like, did we talk about that? And if you all did not talk about it, don't show the world that you did not talk about it.
That is so hard. That is so hard. That is not easy for people to do, because I'm okay with letting it be known that I don't agree because I don't agree. And it is hard sometimes to get into our minds that, listen, what is the end goal? What do you want to come from this? And because we don't often put the practice into working on our interpersonal and communication skills, all we know is how to function sometimes in conflict. So when I roll my eyes or when I say certain things, this is what is comfortable for me. But killing my flesh in the moment, or just waiting for the right time, like, okay, I'm gonna let it ride right now, but when we get in the car, I'm gonna bring it back up. Well, that's gonna require communication skills. I have to tap into something that I might be poor at: practicing patience, waiting for the right time, being long-suffering, practicing love, just being, okay, showing kindness, like don't do it in the moment, just wait until we get behind closed doors. Then you swing it out, work it out. But it's in that moment, you want to express what you feel, and it's self-control ain't kicking in that moment. I want the displeasure that I feel about what you said or what was done to be known. I want you to know it, and I don't care about other people knowing it. Then but not just, hey, just wait it out.
Yes.
It is having enough self-control in the moment to say, I'm not going to express how I feel. I'm not going to even let what I really feel out in my face, in my body language, in my size, in anything. And I'm just going to wait. But that's going to require, us to practice and use other skills, our interpersonal skills, getting, how we interact with each other, and leaning into, just some other things. So
yeah, I think, listen, because what happens when that doesn't happen, when you don't have the self-discipline to tame your emotions or your body language, it comes across as being very disrespectful.
Yep.
And see, when someone from the outside or someone of the opposite sex see that you're not in agreement with your spouse, that's an entryway for division, or entryway that communicates to that individual that, okay, well, they're not in agreement. There's some level of discord. And so their marriage or their situation is on shaky grounds. And you have to make sure that when you are married and you're in public, that there is a unified front.
Yes. Fight in the car. Fight when you get in the car. Have it out. But in front of others, it does have to be.
It's a unified front. So you want me to just be fake? No, it's not being fake. It's a unified front. We have a unified front.
No.
And that's what we talk about even with the staff, to where we can get in here and we can fight it out and work it out. But before we leave out of here, we must be in agreement that we're going to have the event outside.
Yep.
And so we don't need anybody, because once we're in that room, somebody can say, well, I don't think we need to have it inside because we need to have it inside because it may rain. And then others may say, I think we need to have it outside. So if the consensus is we have it outside, the person who feels we need to have it inside is going to have to get in agreement with us doing it outside. We can't leave the room with half the room saying outside, another half saying inside.
Right.
We have to be in agreement that everybody says we're going to do it outside. So if it rains, we can't have a remnant that says, I told you we should have did it. I told you we should have did it inside. No. Once we say that this is what we're going to do, then this is what we're going to do. And that has to be the case in marriage, to where this is the college we're choosing. So now it doesn't matter if I wanted her to go to USC. If you said that if we became an agreement that she's going to UCLA, then that's where we're going.
Absolutely.
Because if I'm saying USC and you're saying UCLA, and then she go to UCLA and she flunk out of UCLA, I have the right in my mind to say, I told you she shouldn't have went to UCLA anyway. No, we're in agreement. So whatever happens at UCLA, we're in agreement with it. So that's why I try to communicate with the team to make sure that we're all in agreement before we move forward on a big decision.
And don't be that person.
Yes.
Like, on the for real. If you know that you need to be on board with something or in agreement with something, don't be the silent hater. Don't be the silent one sitting in the corner. Well, I'm not going to say nothing because I'm not really in agreement. So if it does fail or if it doesn't work out, I don't really commit to it anyway. That is so weak to me. That is like the ultimate level of I never want those people around me.
You're not a team
I
player.
don't. That's it. Because if it falls, I ain't do nothing anyway. I really wasn't in it. And it's like nobody wants you a part of the team. Like seriously, if you're that person, if you're on the team, people are just really tolerating you being on the team. Nobody really wants you on the team because you're not a team player. Because if it falls, there is this sense of it's that face
Told you.
that you're gonna a little bit of told you that you had. If you ride. If it falls, yeah, we all fell together. If it's a win, we all winning together. But here's the thing: those individuals, when it falls, they got the look on their face, and if it wins, they're not even celebrating with you because they really weren't with you in the first place. Be a team player. If you in it, get in it. In your marriage, at work, in your friendships, wherever. If you're in the relationship, be in it. Don't let the other person be sitting over there being they thinking they on the team. And this is it. You don't let me think that you on the team with me, but secretly you're not on the team with me, because it's gonna show up. And be a man or be a woman about it. And if you're not on the team with me, tell me you're not on the team with me. Don't let me think, now, here we are out here, I'm going to battle, I'm going to war, we got this thing going on, and secretly you don't really want to be on the team. Go ahead and resign from the team. But don't be around me and you're not with me. Don't be around me. Don't be in the marriage and you're not really with your husband. Because, and you're right, other people do pick up on it, but you don't even have to be in the other person's presence. I have been around other couples where it's like, your wife ain't nowhere around, but you let it be known that you ain't rocking with her.
You do not rock
You
with
are
her.
not rocking with her. I'm listening to your tone. I'm listening to how you say things. And it's one thing to say, if you get a bunch of married women in a room, everybody gonna talk about their husband to a certain extent, because there are some commonalities in a funny way. I don't mean dogging them out. I mean, girl, he done left his, he done locked them keys up in their car again. Because there are some commonalities that husbands have. If you get a bunch of married women, a bunch of married men in the room. Yeah, bro, she finna take 15 hours. You joke with me all the time. I say, man, I'm gonna be ready in 15. 2 hours. You always say
2 hours later.
that's it. So when you get people, but there is a level of commonality in us being common and joking and laughing about just being married. But there's always sometimes one in the group that takes it to the next level. Like, yeah, girl, we weren't really on that. We was just kind of joking about being married. You took it to, you don't really fool with your husband. Like, yeah, and there's crickets. Yeah, we don't, that's, yeah, we kind of end it there. We're not taking it to the next place. But that's because some of that is, it has a deeper root. Yeah. And that is, we kind of have to get in touch with what that root is, because that will prevent us from really being 10 toes with somebody. And a lot of that has to do with it is trust issues that you have for yourself. Some of, into the pure, all things are pure. If you coming into it, or you're looking at your marriage as if that the person is doing sometimes what you're doing, of course there's no trust, because you know that you behind the scenes doing some things too, or not being honest and forthcoming about things and using manipulation to get your way. So to the manipulator, of course it looks like manipulation is always at play, because that's how you operate. So you're thinking the other person is doing the exact same thing. So I didn't want us to close out the podcast without saying that if you are that individual that's not a rider, know that you have the tendency to not be a rider with people. Know that you have a tendency to not really be loyal, or that's an attribute that you need to work on in your life. And if that's you, be aware of it and work on it, because nobody wants to be on a team with somebody and you're not on the team with me. You're on the team in word, but indeed, as soon as I leave your presence, I already know. Some people, if you in a group setting or you doing something together, I already know that when I leave your presence, you got some extra conversation for somebody about what we just talked about. I already know it. Don't be them. Listen. Don't be them, because I don't want that around me, and I don't. It's best as best I can. I don't really tolerate it around me. I keep them at a distance. You cannot get that close to me. I cannot allow that. And some people foolishly go into things like, well, that's just them. I get it. That's just you. But that part of you can't interact with this part of me. And I can't. Like,
And
I
some
can't
people-
depend on that.
yeah.
We can't rock like that. Because I'm going to rock with you.
That's right.
I'm going to rock with you. But
and the
yeah,
thing is,
let's not do that.
You're even speaking about relationships, but some people
Period.
function like that in marriage. And I don't rock with my spouse in marriage because you don't rock with me.
I'm
You are not a
primarily
team-
talking
Yep.
about in marriage.
Yep,
Like,
you are not
don't
a
do
team
that.
player in marriage.
Nope, you're
you
not.
do your own thing in
Yes,
marriage. You
yes.
don't support me in marriage. We're
Yes.
together, but yeah, you don't
We are
you don't
not
rock
together.
with me.
Yep.
Listen.
And why we get married?
Yep.
Why did you get married?
We're gonna stop right now.
Let's stop.
Because
All right, y'all.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Why?
Because we gotta do another one. We gotta come back next week.
part two?
Yeah, we gotta do a part 2.
Well, a part 2
we
it
have to
is,
do a part
guys.
2 because this is getting gooder and
And
gooder and gooder.
Well, he said it. That's all we have for today. Thank y'all for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.
God bless. Yes.
Thank you for listening to the Still in Love podcast. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and it has indeed blessed your life. If it has, we need you to do 3 things for us. 1, we want you to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform so that way you can be notified when a new episode drops. Number 2, we want you to review it. Click on that 5-star and let us know how much you enjoyed it. We absolutely love feedback here at the Still in Love podcast, and this helps us to make sure that we are scratching where there's an itch. And number 3, we want you to share it with a friend or family member. Also, if you have a question, we'd love to hear it and even talk about it right here on the podcast. You can submit those questions at stillinlovepodcast.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Innovation Church Memphis and on TikTok at We Are Innovation. Until next time, peace.
Don't just start in love,
But stay in love.
thanks for tuning in to Still in Love podcast.